Okay, here we go. What's up, guys? Welcome to the podcast. Today I have a special guest, and she's running for the U.S. House to represent Texas' 15th Congressional District. So please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ada Cuéllar. I'm originally from Weslaco, Texas. I'm running for Texas 15. I grew up in Weslaco, spent the first 18 years there, then went to college at UT Pan Am, and then went to UT Medical Branch in Galveston for med school. And then I moved to Philadelphia for 3 years for my emergency medicine residency. And then I came back home to the Valley, and I've been working here since 2009. And I've been doing law school since 2022. Um, and I'm almost done with that. So,
Awesome. Well,
how
thank
are
you
you?
so much for sharing your time with me. I think this is one of the most important things, and I talk to people about this all the time, is that they kind of need to know who their person is that is about to represent them. They need
Right,
to know who they are, what their vision is,
for
what their
sure.
ideas are. And I'm a huge proponent for it because I feel like just so many people, there's so many registered voters, and there's not enough people going out to actually vote.
Right.
And it's unfortunate because I mean you feel that like the power is in the people because the people elect these candidates and they go out and they represent them. So I kind of
Yeah.
just wanted to dive into a little bit about who you are, what you do. So the first question is why did you decide to run?
2022 was an important year for me. So not only did I start law school, that's the year that my brothers proposed. Well, specifically, my brother Nathan proposed that I should run for Congress. So I was very frustrated with things. I was very frustrated with the types of candidates, particularly on the Republican side, that were out there. I felt like they weren't very smart or serious, and I felt like we needed someone way smarter, way more serious to represent South Texas. And I didn't really think necessarily it should be me, but my brother said it should. And I agreed. I think that I would be the smart, serious representative that we need in South Texas.
So like when your brother's telling you this, like what's going through your head? Because did you anticipate I would assume if you're running for this type of thing, there's a lot of headaches that come with it, a lot of stress
Yeah.
that comes with it. Were you anticipating any of that?
Yeah. So in 2022, I didn't anticipate much because I was about to enter law school and I told them I was going to wait to run after law school. So it was kind of years away when they said that. So I didn't anticipate anything. But now that I'm doing it, yeah, it's a lot of work, a lot of stress. But I think it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was about to ask you is like, why is it worth it? Because obviously it's exhausting getting into a position like this. What did you see specifically that kind of like changed your mind? Say, hey, let me take this to the next level.
Well, I think that we just don't have great representatives at multiple levels. And I think that we need someone like me, smart, serious, very innovative, very much a doer, because there's a lot wrong, especially with healthcare. That's one of my main things, especially because I'm in healthcare. Our healthcare system is very dysfunctional, and now Monica de la Cruz has voted for a bill that's going to harm us, going to cut Medicaid, and cut other things as well that are going to harm the community. So.
Can you touch on that? Can you go into a little bit more detail about that?
So the Medicaid cuts are supposedly just to decrease the fraud, waste, and abuse, and to prohibit people who are not working from getting it. But really, that's not what ends up happening. A lot of times, the people that have Medicaid are working, are disabled, or need it for some other reason. And if you look at the stats, we looked at one stat that only about 8% of people who are on Medicaid in some situations are not working. And some of those people are retired, so we wouldn't expect them to work,
Right.
right? Um, so they have the work requirements, but it ends up that when you look at other states, when they've tried this, it just costs a lot to implement this kind of program. And what they end up doing is just burdening the people who are on Medicaid, and then they forget to do their paperwork or they don't know how to submit it, and they lose Medicaid even though they're working because they're not able to actually do whatever paperwork's needed to show that they're complying with the work requirements.
Interesting. Yeah, I find that the Rio Grande Valley is a really special place. Obviously, I've lived here my whole life. I got my family. Everybody I know is from here. I have children here in Hidalgo County. And it's interesting to see that a lot of the cities, they don't really speak to each other. From my experience, I've seen it across the board. And one of the perfect examples of this is like, for example, McAllen. We have a lot of water issues spread across the Rio Grande Valley. And I was
Yeah.
at a meeting the other day, and somebody I can assume that was from the water board was saying that they're talking to Bexar County, they're talking to all these other counties out of the Rio Grande Valley, and showing them like how they're doing the stuff like with the water issues. But you don't see that interaction between the Rio Grande Valley specifically, like the cities. And it's always scratched my head, like why don't these cities work together? How do you bridge that gap? Because I've been scratching my head like why don't cities work together for the advancements of like the whole entire region?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I don't think that there's like a bad faith reason. Sometimes I just think that people don't really think of that being a thing they can do.
Hmm.
And so maybe it's just not realizing that, hey, maybe we should start talking to each other and working together, and maybe that would be better for us.
Yeah, I feel like the Rio Grande Valley is such a special place and has
Yeah.
very special people. Like our mentality is interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
I always push back on this because a lot of people give me a lot of heat about it, and I say, well, the Rio Grande Valley is a very special place. We have our own mentality, and people are like, well, no, it's like that across the United States. Fine, but this is where I live. This is where I
Yeah.
reside. This is the people that I talk to, so I can kind of see within my radius, like, yeah, the people have a certain way of thinking. And that kind of goes back to like the values and the connection to the RGV. So obviously you're from here. Like
Right.
your personal values, like how do your values kind of decide your decisions going forward?
Yeah. So my parents brought me up with some core values. I'm very much about honesty. I'm very much about being a dependable person. I'm very much about doing the right thing. And that's just how I operate. I actually don't really even know how to lie. That's how honest I am. It's a good quality to have, but if I needed to tell a white lie, you'll be able to tell that I'm lying because it's
Yeah,
that bad. That's how
yeah.
honest I am.
Well, that's good.
Um, so
That's
those are the
refreshing.
values. Yeah, those are the values that I have, and I translate that to everything I do.
Yeah, and on that, the fact that you don't know how to lie, I mean, saying it how it is to people that kind of would offend them, wouldn't you say? Like, how do you deal with that? Because I'm honest. Like, I'm an honest
Yeah.
person. I'm very transparent with a lot of people, and when I say
Right.
these things, it kind of comes off as harsh or rash, and people
Yeah.
they're kind of like, okay, well, hold on, dude.
Yeah, I think that I've learned how to deal with that over time, especially with being an ER doc. You don't want to seem angry or mean with the patients,
Right.
so you kind of soften the way that you say things.
Okay.
So it's something that you just continue to work on so that it doesn't sound mean or harsh or abrasive.
Yeah, maybe I haven't gotten to that level yet. So you've mentioned God, family, and country. Like in the context of South Texas, like what does each one of those things mean specifically to you?
Yeah, so the reason that I talk about it is because it actually bothers me that those values, I guess, are considered part of a certain ideology or a certain party, and I don't agree with that. I feel like no one owns those values.
Right.
And as a Democrat, I'm not conceding those values because we're for God, family, and country too. Yeah, everyone's different. They may be an atheist or something, but I would say that for a lot of us, God's important.
Yeah.
I am not a religious person, but I very much believe in the Bible and the Christian principles. I did grow up with that. And so I do lead my life in that way, loving my neighbor, things like that. And I believe that a lot of people in South Texas, regardless of what their party is, believe in God. And I have a lot of people even on my team that are big Democrats, that are Catholics, that are huge churchgoers, very religious. So I think that like faith, God are very important to people in South Texas, regardless of their party or their ideology.
Right. And you talk about like the community aspect of it. So like when you're talking to residents like on the ground, what are those like their top three things that they're talking about? Like because I find it interesting. There's always different aspects, especially if you go into like different cities, different communities. They each struggle with something. Like for example, when I was doing my documentary on the flooding in Harlingen and San Benito. A lot of them feel like they've been forgotten and they don't have a voice. So that is what I heard with that section, that community. Like I'm interested in seeing like what are you hearing from the communities that you go into?
So one thing that I hear is actually not related to policy, but I hear it a lot. It's that the representatives that we have, even Democrats, are not really present, not really listening. Monica La Cruz, of course, is not doing town halls and not really interacting with the community in a really meaningful way. But they're also saying that even Democrats are not showing up
Hmm.
and not listening or not answering their calls. So I think that that's something that's really important for me. We really want to change this. If I get to Congress, we're not going to hide behind a chief of staff and legislative staff. We're going to make things as easy as possible so that people can talk to us directly. And we're even going to call up people in the community and say, hey, what are the issues that we need to work on in Congress or any bills that you can flag for me that I'm not aware of yet?
Right.
So that's a big issue. And I think the other issues are really related to some of my core issues. My core issues are the economy, healthcare, and education. I've heard a lot about the economy, how the tariffs are impacting things, how things are really expensive. And I've heard a lot about healthcare and how dysfunctional it is, how people can't really afford healthcare even when they have health insurance.
Right. Yeah, I find it interesting because the reason why I was doing the documentary on the flooding and the infrastructure is because I kept going back and forth over the years, and it had always been on my mind. The question is like, why are there so many sick people here in the Rio Grande Valley? And
Yeah.
it scratches like I don't know how to word it sometimes because I talk about this stuff a lot, and there's obviously a lot of issues, and I feel like the environment is one of the main ones. But
Mm.
like, why do you think, in your opinion, there's so many sick people here in the Rio Grande Valley? Because you see it from you see it from a different perspective since you are in the healthcare system.
Well, first of all, I want to say that one thing I've learned throughout my years as a doctor is that when someone tells me something, like, for example, the environment is a big factor, I don't really want to discount it because we may just not have the data yet to really show that the environment's a big factor. So
Mhm.
I think the environment's a factor. I just don't know how much of it is a factor in the valley at this time.
Okay.
But what I've seen is a lot of obesity. And obesity actually impacts the body in multiple ways. And one big thing is it's inflammatory. So that inflammation can lead to a lot of disease processes, autoimmune diseases. Um, it could lead to a heart attack, even. It could lead to cancer. And then obviously the obesity too, if you have that body type, that metabolic syndrome, then you can also become diabetic, hypertensive, high cholesterol. So I feel like it starts with our general health, just a lot of obesity. And I think there are a lot of factors that are related to that. I think this area is not an area that's great for exercising
Right.
and being healthy. It's super hot outside. A lot of areas don't have an easy place to walk, to bike. And the way that we're set up, it's set up to mostly drive too.
Right. Yeah, I find it interesting because on the same thing with the environments, the obesity rates, like McAllen and surrounding cities were
Yeah.
number one most obese cities in the nation. So when I went on my journey, my fitness journey, I lost about 60 pounds, and at that point I was like, you guys got to do this, you guys got to do this,
Yeah.
and I was pushing for health and working out, and I figured out real fast that people don't like to be told what to do, so they want to be inspired. And it still is strange because I'm pushing out a lot of inspirational stuff, but I feel like a lot of people don't really care as much, or they don't care enough to do something about it until it affects them. Do you see that?
Well, I have changed my perspective over the years because I've started to realize that it's hard for people, especially with the economy that we have now. Sometimes you have to work a lot of hours.
Right,
So sometimes you're working, 10-hour days, 5 days a week. And then a lot of people now have to have two incomes in the household to make it. So if you're doing that, then you have kids, you're doing drop off, pickup, then they have activities.
yeah.
Where do you find the time? Where do you find the energy to exercise? And then it's also easier to just pick up something at a restaurant.
Yeah, that's true. I stumbled upon a interesting health assessment. So I posted about it today, which is from DHR Health. It's the Health Equity Needs Assessment for 2025, and it showed that up to 105,000 adults in Hidalgo County battle poor mental health every single month. Those numbers are shocking. This is across the entire Rio Grande Valley. It shows that 1 in 6 adults in the Rio Grande Valley spend half of their month mentally sick. What are your thoughts on that? Because this is the first time I stumbled upon this, and I'm always digging for data and analytics and stuff like that and studies
Yeah.
that I can kind of just not dumb down, but like put it in a way that people can understand it. When I saw this, I was like, this seems like there's something bigger here.
Yeah. So I actually have done some mental health telemedicine. I did it for 4 years. So I have a lot of different experiences that I can use to basically relate to the issues. And one thing I learned is that a lot of times it's related to like socioeconomic factors. People would say, well, my car broke down, so now I'm really depressed.
Hmm.
Or I lost my job, so now I'm really depressed or anxious. So that's part of it. Like I think you have to have a lot of stability in your life to have good mental health. And if your car is breaking down, if you don't have enough money to eat, if you're losing your job, if you don't have the ability to just find a good job right away, things like that, that can contribute.
Right.
And we are in an area that is very poor.
Yeah.
And so there's probably a lot of people who deal with those issues, and that contributes to depression and anxiety. And then I think the other thing too is just the fact that everyone's on the internet now. And social media can cause anxiety and depression, just being online. I've actually been told to get off social media during this campaign. I finally got off for the most part, and
Yeah.
it has helped me. My stress levels are down. So I think that's part of it too. And then people are not connecting to the community anymore, and that can be related to multiple factors too. Maybe just the fact that they're working all the time and they don't have the time to connect with the community,
Yeah.
or just the fact that people are not really connecting like they used to and having gatherings like they used to.
Do you think it's because social media? Because I struggle with that too. Like I reach a lot of people on social media. Like my Facebook, I've reached over 5 million people. On Instagram, 4.2
Wow.
million people, and on TikTok, over 2 million people over the past 30 days, 28 days. And what I find is that when I'm getting this feedback from people, obviously they're gravitating towards the content. And it's kind of like it pushes me back into the social media. So it's like a kind of like a cycle. And
Yes.
and I don't want to have that mental health issues where I'm addicted to social media because I see it. I see it every single day with everybody, especially kids. Like the whole thing that kids can't take in phones to school anymore, which I have
Yeah.
mixed views about because certain things, but I just feel like social media is one of those things where it's a really good thing and then it's a really bad thing because everybody has something to say at any
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. I mean, for you, I guess you need to stay on. But for me, it's been great not being on it. I'm becoming way more productive. I'm not stressing out about things that are related to the campaign.
Right.
So
And
I think
then
if you
and
can
then
get
to
off,
get
it's good.
feedback from people too that could be heart-wrenching.
Right. Exactly.
Say the least. Let me give you this statistic. This is from rgvhealthconnect.org. In Cameron County in 2023, there were 32,000 pounds of carcinogens released into the air. From 2013 to 2023, there were 288,000 pounds of carcinogens released into the air. I have a feeling that a huge percentage of that population over there does not know this stuff. It's heartbreaking to see because the RGV Health Connect pulls data specifically for the Rio Grande Valley, and
Yeah.
it's been an invaluable tool to help me spread the message about what I'm talking about and all the issues that the Rio Grande Valley faces. So
Right.
I see these things, and then I hear the feedback from the people that are over there. It's heartbreaking. Like what can we do to like mitigate that stuff because I have a feeling that nobody really knows the gravity of the situations that are going on over there.
Well, I think we'd have to have an administration that actually cares about regulating things.
Right.
And instead, we now have an administration that wants to be anti-regulation. So they're not going to be great about things like this, trying to decrease the carcinogens. So
Will
I
that be
think that's
something
something
that you
that,
work towards?
yeah, I mean, I think it's something that we could try to legislate. Um, but I don't know how hard it would be to try to make real change. But I can try my best
Yeah.
and see what we can do to try to legislate so that we can have more regulation.
Yeah, because that's one of the things like I'm really good at spreading the awareness, but people keep asking me, well, what are you going to do about it? It's like,
Right.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, and I'm not a chemical engineer.
Yeah,
I'm really good at getting the information out. That way people can make informed decisions, maybe not go out this day because the air quality is bad or something like that. So I really struggle with that because a lot of people are turning to me. I get messages every single day and people find my number on, I don't know how they find my number. They call me too, and they're telling me these situations, and I figure. Like, why are they messaging me? Why are they calling me? I'm just a guy that's talking about this on social media.
right.
Then it kind of dawned on me as like nobody's listening to them. So
Yeah,
they don't feel like they have a voice. And I feel like that with a lot of the current people that are in office right now,
yeah.
that they can call them, they can reach out to them, but then they never get back or they never talk to them again. And this
Right.
that's
Well,
what
and that's what we want to change. Because we've heard that, like I said, so many times. And so for us, it's very important that we're going to be as direct as possible. I mean, at some point it could get to where we're overwhelmed and we may have to figure out a better process. But right now, it's kind of the status quo that everyone kind of hides behind like a chief of staff and other legislative staff, and we don't want that. And if someone calls my chief of staff, it's going to be someone that is going to get the person directly to me or is so good with policy that they can take those issues themselves and start telling me what to do.
yeah, I feel like a lot of times this is like one person just passes it off to the next person, then that
Right.
person passes it off to the next person, then that person passes it
Yeah.
off to the next person. It's like no, and nobody ever gets an answer. So it's
Right.
I know it's frustrating for people, like especially like when I was talking about the Harlingen people over there that they felt forgotten and just they didn't have feel like they had a voice. So I think it's important that all the candidates, you know, obviously since they're elected, they listen to their constituents. But
Right.
let's keep on that accountability part because I feel like a lot of times when a lot of people are on the campaign trail, they're talking about certain things, they're pushing out this message, but then when they get into office, some of that stuff starts to fall apart. How
Right.
do we as citizens or the community keep them accountable?
Yeah. So I've already told multiple people that if I'm not doing what I said I would do, I want them to call me out.
Yeah.
I want them to call me and say, hey, you're not doing what you said you were going to do. Or if I start changing, because people have told me too that sometimes the Congress people start changing over the years. Um, I want to hear it. I like to hear criticism, even though sometimes it feels really hard, but I like to hear it so that I can reassess what I'm doing.
Reassess and readjust. Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting. So as far as like your long-term goals, like this is just assume like, okay, you get elected. What do your first 100 days in office look like?
So, I mean, I think it's hard as a representative in the House to get a lot done. I would want to try to write some bills for healthcare, specifically something where people could buy into Medicare, people who are not yet Medicare age. Um, I also would like to push back on a lot of the policies of the Trump administration that I think are discriminatory. Um, I think that some of the pushes that they've made, particularly with education and specific schools, are discriminatory towards a lot of people in the district. So I'd want to push back on that as much as possible. But the big thing for us in those first 100 days would really be changing the culture, at least in my office, with people that are going to listen. And we also want people in DC that are actually from the district.
Yeah.
Because what we tend to see is that the legislative staff tends to be from Massachusetts, even though they're with someone from Texas.
Interesting.
And I don't think that that's right. I think we have a lot of talented people down here, and we need people who actually know this district in order to have the best staff that we can have and make the changes we need to make.
Let me get your opinion on a couple of things since Cameron County and that area over there, Willacy counties are they have SpaceX and like the LNG projects, right?
Yeah,
Then I'm going back to the environment again because I'm a huge proponent for the environment. I feel like the environment that people are in really dictates the health outcomes and stuff like that. So, what are your thoughts like on SpaceX now that Elon Musk's has control of that city over there, Starbase, and then the
yeah,
new LNG plants that are coming that have already been greenlit for like 2029? Uh,
yeah,
what do you see of the future of like South Padre Island? Like everybody loves South Padre Island. I go there all the
yeah,
time. I think I got a lot of heat the other day because I put out a social media post talking about the five things that people are saying about South Padre Island, and all of five were bad. So I got a lot of heat about it, but in all honesty, I love South Padre and I take my family out there all the time.
Yeah.
Love going out there. But seeing things like SpaceX and the LNG projects coming out there, it kind of throws up a red flag for the communities. Like in reality, what does the future look like? I'd like to
Yeah.
get your thoughts on that.
So I actually took a space law course, and I studied Elon Musk as part of it for my paper. And so his thing has always been that he doesn't want regulation. He feels that regulation in general is stupid. He doesn't really think about the fact that there are possible environmental harms. All he cares about is forwarding his mission, trying to get to Mars, getting all the satellites up. So I think that basically we'd have to have a lot more regulation, and that's not really going to happen with this administration. We're going to need an administration that's willing to go back to regulating a lot. And if we don't regulate a lot, then I see a lot of damage to South Padre Island and the Boca Chica area.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Going back to the rgbhealthconnect.org, there's a part in there that shows the top rates of cancer in specific zip codes, which is I found interesting. And four out of the top nine places that have the highest rates of cancer, specifically here in the Rio Grande Valley, are four of the places that the Laguna Madre leads out to. So it's Rio Hondo, Port Isabel, South Padre Island,
Yeah,
and there was another one as well. And I found that interesting because the Arroyo Colorado is a very interesting water source, and it pushes out all the wastewater and all the banned pesticides into that Laguna Madre before it goes out into the Gulf. So you think about that one thing, then you got the LNG plants, and then you got SpaceX there. I just don't feel like the South Padre Island that we all know and love is going to be the same within the next 10 years. And then
yeah,
imagine that out into the next 50 years.
yeah.
What do you think about those things? I know you kind of touch on it, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the time frame, but I do agree that as long as we're on this path, it's going to be damaged more and more, and it's going to be more and more unsafe.
yeah,
That's definitely what I learned from the research I did.
interesting. So the 10-year plan, let's just say that this term is 4 years and then next 4 years, so 8 years. What does that look like for a long-term plan for you specifically for what you want to implement?
Well, just to be clear for the House, you only get elected for 2 years, so you're
Okay.
constantly campaigning.
Okay.
But if I were in office that long, what I would want for the Rio Grande Valley specifically is that we should be like San Antonio. We should have that kind of economy, that kind of diversity, that kind of wealth, that kind of education. We should have a county hospital. We should have a lot more medical school seats. I don't know if we can do that at UTRGV or if we're going to have to build another medical school, but we need 200 seats a year in the medical school class.
Mhm.
Um, and I see an area where our education's better and an area where we no longer have to have as many men that have to go work on oil rigs or truck drive for a good job.
Let me get your thoughts on artificial intelligence. I feel like artificial intelligence is here to stay. Like
Yeah.
when I first got access to ChatGPT in November of 2022, I was on it for I think like 2 or 3 hours every single day. Like
Oh,
I
wow.
was obsessed. And at one point, the ChatGPT sent me a message saying, "Hey, go outside, go touch grass, get like leave."
Yeah.
And my exposure to artificial intelligence just has increased. But I've
Yeah.
seen how a lot of businesses now are implementing it, and they found out ways to capitalize on it and have less workers in there.
Yeah.
What are your specific thoughts on that? Because I feel like the economy is obviously in a weird place right now, and if businesses figure out that they can implement artificial intelligence and then remove like 80% of the workforce, what does that look like? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, they absolutely will decrease the workforce as much as they can because they want the profit.
Right.
That's the goal of a business, right? To get the most profit that you can for the shareholders or the owner. So I think it might be a rough ride because it's going to start with education. We're going to have to prepare our kids for jobs that are not going to be phased out with AI.
Yeah.
And so
And those are a lot
I'm
of
not
the
sure in the
trade
meantime.
works, right?
Sorry, what did you say?
Those are going to be like a lot of the trade works, like the skilled laborers.
Well, I think something where you do things with your hands and you kind of procedural stuff that's going to be more protected.
Mhm.
It's going to be things like maybe the people who work at call centers now. Maybe you don't even need someone calling anymore. We could just have an AI person call them.
Yeah.
Customer service jobs, things like that. Even maybe paralegal work. Um, there are a lot of possibilities that you can kind of phase out by using AI. Like I said, customer service, maybe like certain patient intake things, like AI could ask the initial questionnaire, stuff like that.
Right, screen them. Yeah, I saw last year at some points within the next 5 years, there will be able to be a single team person along with AI to make $100 million business per year. And I think that's already happened with like a team of three, which is going to be interesting to see because you're going to start seeing a lot of more people just like start bringing in everything, and that kind of just people start losing their jobs over the next
Yeah.
few years.
Yeah, I mean, in a worst case scenario, like I think we could do something federally. As of right now, I'm not for a universal basic income.
Mhm.
But if we got to the point where it was so dire that barely anyone could find a job because so many jobs have been phased out with AI, then maybe we do have to think about a universal basic income so
Right.
that people can survive.
I wonder what that world would look like. What would people be doing? Like, would there be more artists, more creators? Like, well, what does that
Yeah.
world look like? What do you think?
I think it's tough because we're not really prepping people for this, right? So are they really just going to hang out and watch Netflix?
Right.
I don't know.
And I have a feeling that if that does happen, the illness rate will probably go up because of the
Yes.
sedentary life.
Right, right. So if you're not preparing people for that kind of future, then there are going to be a lot of problems. And that's why also I believe that in K through 12, we need to change things as far as education, a lot more health, nutrition, and physical education.
Yeah, because at one point there was a lot of physical education
Right,
and there was a lot of physicality, and then for some reason it started phasing out. Can you
right.
kind of touch on that?
Well, more recently, Trump re-implemented the presidential fitness test. And so looking at that, I realized that Obama had done away with it. And part of that was they thought that it actually created bullying situations, things like that.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's tough because I think there's always going to be some difficult situation if you have something like a presidential fitness test. And sometimes maybe you kind of have to just put up with that, and maybe the kids have to become resilient,
Right,
and maybe they'll start practicing at home, maybe doing push-ups at home or whatever they need to do so that next time they look good and don't get bullied.
right.
So I do agree with having some standards like that. But it has to be implemented in a real way in all the schools. And I think we need to teach the kids how to cook.
Yeah,
I think people are
absolutely.
not really cooking these days, and they don't really know what they're eating either. So
Yeah.
they need to learn what is exactly in the foods, which is the best pasta sauce to choose, things like that. Because, you look at a certain pasta sauce and it has a lot more sugar in it. And so there's another one next to it that's a better choice for your health.
For sure. I did a podcast yesterday at UTRGV, and one of the guys sent me a study which was called the genotype by socioeconomic status, which kind of influences heart disease risk across the Rio Grande Valley. So what it did was study 2,500 Mexican Americans, and it shows that the higher your education and information level, the less likely you are to get heart disease, which, yeah, obviously that is true, right? Because you're getting education, you're getting more informed. But this kind of like just this study kind of proves that the more educated you are, the more informed you are, that your risk of getting illnesses in the future are less.
Yeah.
Which I was kind of looking forward to because I kind of already am doing that in a way with social media, kind of getting the word out.
Yeah.
But this study really cements that idea because the more educated, more informed citizens are across the Rio Grande Valley, we will have less issues with illnesses, heart disease, cancers, illnesses with the asthma. So I feel
Right.
like that's something that should be implemented across the board. Do you
Yeah.
agree, or what are your thoughts
Yeah,
on that?
very much. So I've talked about it on other podcasts. Basically, there's a lot we could do. We could teach people how to eat. We could teach people how to treat a basic cold. We could do a lot of things to prevent antibiotic resistance by education. And we could do a lot of things to prevent obesity with education as well. So I feel like we need to get smarter about what we do with the kids' time at school. Some of the things really need to help them with their lives. And that includes health, nutrition, and physical education, in my view.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. Over the long term, like, so when we look back at the history books, and this just assume that you already done your term, what do you want to be remembered for, specifically for like for you achieving the community? Like, what your thoughts, like everything that you implemented, what do you want to be known for?
I think I want to be known for bringing a county hospital to Hidalgo,
Okay,
and also maybe a VA hospital after that.
that would be great for our veterans.
Yeah. But we need the county hospital first, I think. And then after that, if we could get that, then the next step would try to get a VA hospital.
Doctor, before we finish off the podcast, kind of let everybody know where they can find you, and maybe if you have some last words, yeah,
Yeah, so I have a website, drcuellarforcongress.com. I also have a podcast called Campaign de Cuellar that's available on all the platforms. And on that podcast, I talk about the issues. I also take questions. And it's a way for us to basically let people know more about me and connect with me.
awesome. How
I
can they
also
find
have a
you on social
TikTok.
media? Are you still doing social media? I know you took a little break.
I have a social media team. So the social media team is managing the other things too, like the TikTok, the Instagram, the Facebook.
So if they wanted to reach out to you, that's the best way to do it, or how can they reach out to
The
you?
best way to reach out to me directly would be at my email, ada@drcuellarforcongress.com. And anyone that wants to contact my campaign manager, that's Vanessa at drcuellarforcongress.com.
Awesome. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for sharing everything you've shared.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Have a great day.
Bye. You too.
Bye.
Bye.